Today is Monday, May 6, 2024. 2024, I will now call the City Council special meeting to order at 6:20 p.m. Item number 2, our roll call. We do have a quorum of council. Item number 3, our public comments. City Secretary, do we have any public comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do.
Okay.
Nicholas Sire. Mr. Sire, as you approach the podium, please state your name and address for the record, and please adhere to the 3-minute time limit.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Nicholas Sire. I'm a registered voter in Missouri City, Texas. I'm here representing myself. Over the past week, I asked myself, why do I choose to live in Missouri City, Texas? I know that's a deeply personal question for a lot of us in our room. Some of us have moved to Missouri City from places like Houston, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, while others chose to leave a foreign country. This evening, I felt compelled to let everyone in the room know, and I know it's a full house, that there's new dominoes that are about to fall to significantly change Missouri City and the Constitution that drives the everyday operations of why we love to live here. In a few moments, you'll hear City Council review some of the Charter Review Commission's proposed changes to the Home Rule Charter, which is a constitution for the city. There's some aspects that I consider good, some are bad, and frankly, some are ugly. And when I say ugly, I'll highlight those in a moment. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any town hall meetings occurring in the city over the past 6 months about this topic, being the Constitution. Frankly, this makes me sad. I have faith that we can do better, and as we'll see shortly, I believe we'll probably see a presentation. There's 4 things that I believe make me pause and vote against and be an advocate against these proposed changes. Number 1 is City Council should not be able to vote on a compensation package for themselves, such as $150,000 plus salary, bonus, etc., with no waiting period or lockout period. The city manager runs the day-to-day operations of the city, not City Council. Thank you. As a new change in 2023, I realize the city manager now has the help of a deputy city manager, an assistant city manager number 1, and an assistant city manager number 2. As a recurring theme, I hear many registered voters say that they don't want Missouri City to be like Houston. They view that City Council and other elected officials in the area are public servants. They're not day-to-day managers, and their responsibility should be at a distance. Also, the clause that has to do with a cool-off period for an ex-city council member to become a city manager or acting city manager is currently 2 years. That should not be reduced to 1 year. Also, transparency matters in my mind and a lot of people that I talk with. Everyone in the room is probably well familiar with the city's trials and tribulations since the 2018 election. Keeping the wording about pecuniarily interested directly or indirectly, not allowing the city council or other officers of the city to have a vested interest, whether involving monetary money or not, should not be revised. For those who are not familiar, the home rule government was in place since probably the 1970s. It's worked pretty well since then. I know there's some hiccups.
Mr. Sire,
but thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, that concludes public comments.
All right, thank you. Item 4A, discussion and possible action. Presentation and discussion received the 2024 Charter Review Commission final report, and if necessary, authorize staff to take actions. We have a proposed presentation. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to see you all again. I'm going to quickly go over a presentation for the Charter Review Commission for 2024. My name is Jeremy Davis. I was the chairman for this year. So the City Council's strategic goals that we covered during this Review Commission was to create a great place to live, maintain a financially sound city government, develop a high-performance city team. So the objective of this presentation is to submit a Charter Commission final report to City Council. I'm also going to go over the duties of the Charter Review Commission and also the proposed amendments to the commission that we recommend to be put on the ballot, and the proposed amendments that we don't recommend. So the duties of the Charter Review Commission, I'll run through this really quickly. is to inquire into the operation of the city government under the charter provisions and determine whether any such provisions require revision, propose any recommendations it may deem desirable to ensure compliance with the provisions of the charter by the several departments of the city government, propose, if it seems desirable, amendments to the charter to improve the effective application of the charter to current conditions, and report its findings and present its proposed amendments, if any, to the council. That's the list of our members for this year's. And these were the 4 meetings that we had this past year. So I'm going to start naming off the potential amendments. I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. We've got 19 to go over. So the proposed amendment number 1, this is for section 3.03. It adds language qualifying that council's determination on the qualifications of its members are as subject to state law. Consideration here was it removes the perceived ambiguity between state law and city charter. Proposed amendment number 2 deletes the language requiring an election and 6-month wait period for city council compensation changes. Considerations are that it allows an existing council to control its own compensation. Such a change would still need to be subject to available funding in the budget. Proposed amendment number 3 changes the timeline for electing the mayor pro tem from November 15th, but not earlier than the date of a general election, if any, for a member of the council to December 31st of each year. The considerations here are in the event there is not a citywide election, this could provide more flexibility and would allow the council to vote for a pro tem earlier. In the event that there is only a single meeting due to unforeseen circumstances or changes to the rules, this amendment will provide the council with more flexibility. Amendment number 3 adds language qualifying that the council's determination on the qualifications of its members is subject to state law, and that goes along with amendment number 1. Amendment number 5 adds language clarifying the appointment can only occur if 12 months or less remains in an unexpired term. The consideration here is that it's a cleanup or a clarification of what we currently have. 3-year terms were adopted during the last charter review. State law requires an election for vacancies for which 12 months or more remain in an unexpired term. Amendment number 6 requires the council to hold at least 2 city council meetings per month in 10 calendar months each year. Considerations is that it provides more flexibility for council and management, basically for holidays and other unforeseen circumstances. Amendment number 7 decreases the amount of members needed for quorum in certain circumstances. So this basically clarifies that 4 members are not required where state law allows for less members for a quorum. Number 8 increases the number of council members required to request an ordinance from 1 to 2. And this provides greater efficiency with personnel resources. Amendment number 9. So this one updates the recodification requirement in light of technological advances that allow electronic codification on a more frequent basis. The consideration for this is that it provides greater efficiency with resources. Current electronic methods provides transparency and accessibility. Amendment number 10 requires council consultation in lieu of council consent for the appointment, suspension, and removal of directors. The considerations are that current provision is not consistent with this council manager form of government. It's a constant point of interest with the city's city managers. Number 11 decreases the amount of time required for a council member to wait to serve as a city manager or acting city manager after being an elected official. The considerations would be change will be consistent with the 1-year waiting period requirement in section 3.08A. The time frame is consistent with the waiting period for state employees to contract with state agencies after employment. Amendment number 12, this authorizes the city manager to prepare personnel rules with council consultation instead of council adoption. Considerations here are that it's consistent with the council manager form of government. All employees other than the city manager, city attorney, and city secretary are employees of the city manager. Number 13, this one adds a subsection authorizing the council to continue to set budget policy by requiring council adoption for the city's pay plan. The considerations are that it allows council to continue to set policy priorities through budgeting already in the existing charter. It's consistent with the compensation requirements under the civil service system. Amendment number 14, this requires the city secretary to verify the residency of candidates by viewing a Texas driver's license or identification card. Questions have come up in the past related to candidate residency. And the other consideration is that final determination of residency is a state district court. Amendment number 15 removes the requirement for the mayor's signature on checks, vouchers, etc., and requires the signature of the city manager. The considerations here is that it's administratively beneficial. It's consistent with the council manager form of government, and the city manager is responsible for the daily operations of a city, and it's consistent with other cities in the area. Amendment number 16, this defers to state law for conflicts of interest. The considerations are that it incorporates the state law, it promotes inclusion for potential board and committee members, and it requires the disclosure of conflicts. And so these were some proposed amendments that were not recommended by the commission. Amendment number 17 is to eliminate the council districts. We chose against that because we wanted to avoid a lack of representation for each district. Amendment number 18 wasn't recommended because it's already addressed by the proposed amendment number 10. Amendment number 19, to increase the amount of time in between charter review commissions from 4 to 7 years. We didn't recommend that because this allows the city to stay up to date with the current political and social environment. And that's all.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. I'm going to go to, I've seen a couple of council members on the queue. Councilmember Boney.
Thank you so much, Mayor. First of all, thank you, Jeremy, for your leadership, as well as all of the members of the Charter Review Commission. We thank you. I know those 4 meetings, as well as all of the preparation for them, was a lot to ask of you. So thank you so much. I just had a couple of questions for City Secretary and City Attorney. All residents were given an opportunity to serve on this, or applied to serve on this commission, correct?
That is correct.
Was that communicated by e-blast or on the website, or?
We did use all of our communication tools, such as social media and the website, to promote the vacancies for this particular
If I may, we actually extended the deadline twice.
Yes.
Okay, great. And the other question that I have, or kind of 2 questions in one, is all of the meetings were open to the public, correct?
That is correct.
So anyone that is a resident of the city of Missouri City had an opportunity to come out and hear what the Charter Commission was deliberating, as well as did they also have an opportunity to speak during public comments and or on the agenda item?
They did have the ability to speak, and we did post according to the Texas Open Meetings Act.
And did anyone take advantage of being able to speak at?
We actually did have one speaker at the last meeting. A young lady spoke about the need for sit-down restaurants.
Okay, thank you. All right, but everyone had an opportunity to.
That is correct.
All right, thank you. Thanks again, Jeremy.
Thank you. Recognizing Councilmember Riley.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say thank you, Jeremy, to you and the other commissioners that did such an outstanding job. I know you guys spent a lot of hours with that. I really just have one question for you. When you guys were looking at the recommendations and these amendments, where did that solicitation come from? Was it from the public? Was it from council? Was it from the staff? Just want to make sure that everyone knows that this didn't just come from the council. It came from where?
Yeah, from what I understand, it was recommendations from staff. There were some from council, and then I believe there were some from the public as well, and also from the commissioners.
Okay, good. Thank you. And then my other question, City Secretary, In the past, don't you guys do a notary when they sign for candidacy in the city? Don't you verify with their driver's license at that time?
We do verify voter registration, and that's according to state law.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Mayor.
All right, recognizing Councilmember Brown Marshall.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Jeremy, thank you so much for what you provided here on tonight. It's most appreciative. I'll just have one question in open session, as a vast majority of my questions probably need to be answered in a closed executive session. My understanding is that at this point, we can only adjust the charter every 4 years.
So pursuant to state law, you can actually adjust the charter 2 years after the last time the charter was adjusted. Okay. However, in accordance with our charter, we have a charter review commission at least every 4 years.
At the very least. So if in the event that we chose to adopt or to move forward with what has been suggested on tonight, the next time we could have some type of suggested amendments to this again would be in the next 2 years from the time that it's voted upon by the citizens.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, recognize Councilmember Emery.
Yeah, one of the things that, and maybe this will need some clarification by legal, but I noticed that one of the one of the items was to change the number of council members that had to be available for a quorum from 4 to 3, and I guess the state has a requirement for at least 3.
Sure, and I can respond.
Well, my question is, do we have to abide by the state's requirements, or can we, as an independent group, say that we want to continue with 4 as a quorum?
So we would have to abide by the state law regardless, but the proposed change is to clarify that in some instances, the board could meet in less than a quorum. Right now, pursuant to our charter, we are required to have 4 people, 4 council members at every meeting. However, for certain state law purposes, only 2 council members are required. Okay. So this proposed change only states that in those instances in which the state allows less than the prescribed quorum number here, the council can have those 2 members. It's really just a clarification because sometimes people kind of question, the question comes up, but it's really just deferring to state law for those instances in which less than a quorum is required.
Do we have any feel as to what those state issues might be?
It's really just canvassing elections.
Okay.
State law allows 2 people to be present for the canvassing of an election. So it's really just that instance.
So bottom line is, if we would go along with the recommended change to the charter, we would still, as a council, require 4 council members to equate to a quorum, except in those situations that are defined by the state. Correct. As only needing 3. So
2.
Excuse me, 2.
Yes.
So we're not really saying, I want to make sure that people understand, we're not really saying that we're cutting our quorum across the board from 4 to 3.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to go back and ask one thing too, City Attorney. Based on what Councilmember Boney was talking about, all of these 19 proposed amendments that's before us, whether we chose to, what is the council's role on these 19 proposed amendments? Do we have to put all of them, or do we remove certain things out, or how does it, what's the next step?
And that's a great question. So as the council, you all are able to determine which, if any, amendments you all would like to submit to the voters. So you can pick 1, 5, 10, or none if you all would like. You can add amendments if you would like to see additional amendments. Right. You can change amendments that have been proposed by the commission. The commission's recommendations are recommendations, but I will say they were a great group to work with. They were very thoughtful, and they did consider their proposed amendments, and that is what they've submitted to you all. But you all have the authority and the jurisdiction to change whatever they've submitted.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. I think it's important for public to understand whether we move, if we decided not to move forward with any of this, it does not appear on the ballot.
Correct.
If we move forward with your example, 1, 5, or 9, or 10, it goes before the citizens of Missouri City,
That is correct.
and they get to vote,
That is correct.
not the body here,
That is correct.
right? On anything, on any of the 10 or 19 items that we move forward.
Correct. You all decide which items, if any, would be presented to the public for a vote.
Right.
And then the public decides which items they would like to be included in the charter.
In the charter. And these charter review, the last charter review was when?
2020.
2020. So this is another one that just came about.
Yes.
So, Jeremy, thank you so much for sharing that, and to all the members that you have. And I know this is volunteer time that you take, and your members to come up with some of this. I'm glad to see that this come to fruition, and I think we're going to go back and look at some of this. And it's not going to be today that we make the final decision, but we got to understand some of this, and we may have some questions back and forth in doing so. But I commend Councilmember Boney for asking those questions about the charter review and how does one gets on that charter review, and whether the meetings are open to public or not, and basically the transparency process of the charter review. So as public, when you come up and make these comments about transparency, I would suggest that we ask our city manager, city attorney, city secretary these questions rather than coming up here not having half information and to provide it seem like this is not the right way that we're doing. So to your city attorney, in this process, since you started this process, has there been any time that any council members, any of your elected officials migrated into these meetings and suggest anything?
No, sir.
Did they attend any of those meetings?
No, sir.
Have they emailed you about any of those meetings?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you. I rest my case. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember
Mayor,
Boney.
real quickly, I just wanted to point out to what the city attorney was talking about the last time we deliberated and had recommendations from the Charter Review Commission. We made an edit to one of those, which was they recommended 4-year terms, and we had deliberated and actually initially had done, I think it was 3. No, we did 4, and then we came back and modified it to do 3. So we don't have to necessarily do what they're recommending, but it is just a recommendation. Last thing I was going to say is we do have the ability to vote on these items just as a resident of Missouri City.
Right. All right. Thank you. Item number 5, there's a closed executive session, but we're going to go ahead and recess this meeting at 6:43 p.m. so we can get to our regular meeting.